I'm Harry Timpson and I'm a pro surfer from Newquay. So I've been travelling since a very young age. I think I did my first summer away from home with my parents at about 12 years old, down in the southwest of France in Hossegor. And after that summer, just used that as my base for the next 10 years or so, doing trips all over Europe, all over the world, following the Pro Junior Series, the contests and the QS. And now I've fallen into a nice free surfing contract, which I'm absolutely loving. Me and my filmer Ollie make these videos, and you know, it's such a dream way of life, shooting pictures and surfing like some of the best waves on the planet. But yeah, it's such a dream job. The best thing about Newquay and the surf community is it's so tight-knit. You might think that however many surfers there are in Newquay, 20, 25,000 or something, but you know, you surf with the same boys day in, day out. You know, you've grown up with them since you've been like a little grom, like 12 years old. They've been like, you know, they're egging you on, they're like giving you a little bit of grief, but it's all character building, isn't it? We do the same to the kids coming up now, and it's just such a good community. I think, you know, everyone looks out for each other, and you know, at the end of the day, it's just, that's what surfing's about. It is like one big family. Well, if you've ever learnt to surf and you're from the UK, there's no doubt you would have heard about Newquay, and obviously the home of British surfing, Fistral Beach, which is, it's obviously a standout in the UK. It's the most consistent beach break in the UK, and it's obviously shaped some amazing surfers, such as people like Russ Winter, Ollie Adams, Alan Stokes, you know, people that since I was a kid, you know, you've looked up to. And you know, you've always wanted to, you know, outdo people like that. You know, when you surf with them, you know, when you're a kid, you know, you really want to stick it to them and show them that you're worthy. But yeah, it's a great beach, and you know, there's nothing else you can say about it. There's not a fault in it. You have South Fistral, which I surfed earlier, some real nice lefts peeling off the rock, and then on the smaller days over at North Fistral, you know, you get some really good peaks, which is good fun. And then you've got the big wave spot out the back, the Cribber, which, you know, there's a fair few beasts who tackle that, which I'm sure you've seen pictures of. So what it is about surfing that's so great to me is it sounds cheesy, but it's a lifestyle. You know, it's the first thing I think of as soon as I wake up, and the last thing I think of before I go to bed. And I've just been doing it since such a young age. You know, I've loved it, every second of it. The competing aspect, the free surfing aspect. I think it's so good for you. Like, as soon as you jump into that water, you know, nothing else matters. If you've got something on your mind, you know, it disappears. You're just out in the water having fun with your mates. And yeah, like I said before, I just think I'm so lucky to have been able to turn it into a job and just do what I love for a living. If you wanted to get into surfing, it doesn't matter how old you are. You know, my parents surf, my grandma surfs, everyone. So it really is like, people think, you know, you have to be young to get into it, but it's any age. If you go down to any surf school and book in a lesson, it'll be the best thing you do. You'll have such a laugh, you know, hopefully get hooked onto it, and it just goes on from there, really. Like, it's just good to get in the water and, you know, free your mind up, and great exercise as well. Definitely benefits your health mentally and physically. You know, physically you've got the exercise, and mentally, you know, you jump in that water and, you know, it's like a reset button, a breath of fresh air. It's so good for you. You know, if you catch a wave, you have such a rush of endorphins, you know, like, it's just one of the best feelings. The adrenaline, you're paddling back out, smiling and having a laugh, you know, that's what it's all about. You know, there's nothing better than paddling back out to your mates, talking about what a good wave you just had. And that's just, you know, for some people, especially over the last year, I think surfing's, you know, almost saved people, you know, just keeping it like, mentally healthy. And, you know, it's that little bit of like freedom, especially in those tough lockdowns. You're allowed to surf, so, you know, getting out and getting in the water, it was just, you know, we're so lucky that we're able to like be so close to the sea and do that. It's massively important to look after your skin. You know, you see so many young surfers come out of the water, end of the day, you know, red face, you go home and it's uncomfortable. Like, it's just so important, you know, to get that sun cream on, sunblock midday, and afterwards, you know, moisturiser. Just look after your skin. All the girls do it, like, why aren't we doing it? Nobody wants to look, you know, look 40 when they're 25 and have crow's feet. So it's important, get it done.